Mr. Mayor, it is now 6:30.
I call this meeting to order for April 27th, 2021. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Mayor Richard Boss. Mayor Pro Tem Nadia Sykes.
Here.
Commissioner Sharon McDonald.
Here.
Commissioner Josh Reardon.
Here.
Commissioner Susan Payne.
Here.
Commissioner Dusty Wright.
Here.
Commissioner Jason Baldwin is absent. City Manager Brian Caesar.
Here.
The Attorney Patria Bangoshe.
Here.
The clerk is present. Mr. Mayor, we have a quorum.
Thank you, Rachel. If everyone would please stand, we'll have the invocation that will be given by Commissioner Payne, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance, which will be given by Mayor Pro Tem Sykes.
Please join me in prayer. Lord Jesus, we thank you so much for this day, Lord. We thank you that we can come together, Lord, and do the business of this city. Lord, we pray over this city, Lord. I pray over each and every citizen, Lord, that is here, Lord. We pray nothing but blessings, Lord. We pray for our staff, Lord, and all those, Lord, involved in the day-to-day operations. Lord, Lord, right now, I just want to pray also for the fire, Lord, and for those in the path of it, Lord. And we pray that you would just, supernaturally, Lord, just put that fire out, Lord, and that there would be minimal damage, Lord, and that, of course, no lives, Lord, would be taken from this. Lord, I pray that as we do your business tonight, Lord, just give us wisdom, Lord, ears to hear, open hearts, Lord, and help us to make the right decisions, Lord. And we pray this all in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Thank you, ladies. On to approval of the agenda. Do I hear a motion to approve the agenda as presented? I have a motion from Commissioner Payne to approve the agenda. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
I have a second from Commissioner Wright. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion passes 6-0. Move on to public comment. Rachel, do we have any public comment?
Sir, there was no public comment.
Thank you. City Manager's report, Brian Caesar will give that report. Brian?
Okay, I just have a few items for tonight. You should have received an email last week. Your budget books are in your mailboxes. Budget hearings start next week, Tuesday at 6:30. Today I went up to Bonita Lake. I'm sure everyone's aware that there is an ongoing fire. As of 4 o'clock this afternoon, the fire remains at 6,100 acres with no burned structures or injuries. The Forest Service said that last night the fire crested into the South Fork of the Bonita watershed, but it slowed down when it hit the Little Bear fire scar. Burn scar aided overnight and morning was aided by overnight and morning snow and rain, which has proved beneficial in fighting the fire. As of 1:45, it was reported that snow was still falling with accumulation in the high elevations and light drizzle in the lower elevations. Excuse me. I lost my place. The majority of the evacuations has been lifted. There is no immediate threat to the campground or the lake itself. The areas within the Bonita watershed that have burned during the Three Rivers fire are at a very high elevation and located at the furthest distance to our watershed. If conditions remain the same as they are right now, there should be very minimal impact when we hit the monsoon season. Of course, this is all subject to change if the moisture goes away and the winds come back. And it could change quickly as it did yesterday. The fire started at just 30 acres. Just 4 hours later, it was at 4,000 acres. The last item I have tonight is Chief Leclerc's last commission meeting. His last date is Friday. And then the poor guy behind him, Chief Adler, is on his own starting Monday, which is also the week of our budget hearings. So I'd just like to say thank you for your time and service to the city, and I'm a little bit jealous of you. And that's all I have.
Thank you, Brian. We'll move on to remarks and inquiries by the city commission. Do any commissioners have any comments that they'd like to make? Any inquiries?
I do.
You do, Commissioner Payne.
Yeah, first I want to say, Chief Leclerc, we're gonna miss you. Gosh, I don't even know where to start with you. You've always been very, like, I want to say attentive, but you've always listened to my concerns and taken care of my requests, and I really appreciate that. I pray nothing but blessings for you in your retirement. I'm sure your wife is going to be excited too, and so enjoy that time. I'm definitely going to miss you. And Chief Adler, I have no doubt you're going to do a wonderful job. So welcome, and good luck. And you know, I'm just going to say this. I'm a little disappointed because we have a staff that spent hours and hours and hours trying to figure out how we can meet in person. Some of you, Commissioner Sykes, I respect your decision, and you made it clear from the beginning you were not ready to do that. And I appreciate that. But I'm really disappointed that the rest of us are not here. Well, Commissioner McDonald, I think you had some concerns too. But for those that were pretty vocal about meeting in person, we're here, and our staff spent tax dollars and a lot of time to try to figure this out. And it's really disappointing that we don't have more commissioners here meeting in person. It's obviously very convenient to be at home, and it would have been very convenient for me too. So I feel very strongly about that. I'm really disappointed. I'm sorry that Josh had to come all the way down here and do this, and it was really kind of pointless, to be honest with you. But we will move on and have a good commission meeting. Thank you. That's all I have.
Anyone else? Chief Leclerc, we really appreciate you, and we appreciate the service you've given this city. We'll see more of one another in the next few days with some of the stuff that's going on. But thank you so much, and we really hope you enjoy your retirement. Chief Adler, we look forward to working with you. And I think it's super that we're getting someone from Holloman Air Force Base. I think that's really a good thing. Anyway, we'll move on. We'll move on to the consent agenda. Would any staff or commission like to remove any item from the consent agenda? If not, do I hear a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented?
I'll move that we approve the consent agenda as presented.
Okay, I have a motion from Mayor Pro Tem Sykes to approve the consent agenda as presented, and a second from Commissioner Payne. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Baldwin is absent. Nadia Sykes,
Aye.
Josh Reardon,
Aye.
Sharon McDonald,
Aye.
Trustee Wright.
Aye.
Susan Payne,
Aye.
Richard Voss.
Motion passes 6-0. Consent agenda is approved. Have no items removed. We'll move on to unfinished business, which is item 7. Consider and act upon resolution 2021-10 to increase convenience center rates on water bills. I believe we have Larry Gardner, our Public Works Director, here with us tonight to give us some comment on that. Good evening, Larry.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem, Commission, City Manager Caesar. Being this Jim's last meeting, I was going to give him the opportunity to go ahead and present this if you want, Jim. No? Okay, well, I'll go ahead and go forward with it then, I guess. Last week, well, what the item that's up in front of you right now is to the item that was tabled last commission meeting regarding the civic centers, the convenience centers rates being increased on the water bills. There was quite a few questions that were asked, and I got as much as I possibly could answered. So I'm going to dive into my notes here real quick and go through them as quick as I can for you to give you some information on why the staff believes this is the best and correct response to try to get us back into in alignment. The tipping fees out at the landfill for members, this was asked about, is $15.97. For non-members, it's $25.28. This goes up 2% every year. And it's important to note also that our landfill is the cheapest in the state as far as the tipping fees are considered. We actually have people from all over the state and even in Texas that come to tip at our landfill because of those costs. In 2019, the convenience center hauled approximately 763 loads. These are in 40 cubic yard dumpster roll-off containers that constitutes about 4,385 tons of solid waste, which costing the city $69,363 for that year that the city had to pay for those tipping fees. Because we are not immune to those, we also have to pay those from the convenience center. In 2020, the convenience center hauled approximately 798 loads for a total of 4,980 tons of solid waste, which cost the city $80,307 that year in tipping fees. The tipping fees that the landfill and the convenience center record, they're done by physical, not fiscal year. So starting in 2021 so far, the convenience center has hauled 240 loads, is projected to haul 960 loads. If we continue on with the amount that we are carrying right now, this has not shown any sign of slowdown. If anything, it's increased a little bit. We feel confident that it's probably going to continue on, which will constitute about 5,777 tons, which would end up costing the city $92,265 in tipping fees for the year. Now, in these tipping fees, that's not the only thing that's a cost to the convenience center or to the city. These above charges don't take into consideration the operational costs, which includes the personnel to drive the transports, which if they're using full benefits costs, of course, mileage is wear and tear on the transport. The convenience center is located approximately 20 plus miles from the landfill. So you're looking at a round trip of 40 plus miles for this transport to haul its container out there, dump it, and then come back. The fuel was cheaper in 2020. So we kind of got a little bit of a break there. And just to give you some historical data on that, in 2019, we used 4,266 gallons of diesel fuel, costing the city $11,678. Total cost for that year for fuel of the vehicles driving, and that's not including, we have a 500-gallon tank that's at the site that we use for the equipment that is there. But that total was $13,615 in 2019. In 2020, we used 5,852 gallons of diesel. So we increased, of course, because of the round trips that we were making. The total cost for that was $15,740. We estimated the estimated average paid out for that in 2019 was $2.62 for a gallon for diesel and $2.46 for regular. In 2020 was $2.42 for diesel and $1.78 for regular. This year so far we've used 1,763 gallons of diesel fuel, costing us about $708. The estimated average, because of course it's just starting out, is 272 for the gallon for diesel and 230 for regular. We expect those prices to continue to rise. We don't expect them to stay the same. The new backhoe, which was asked about, that is a 2019. That was paid for by the rebate for the city from the 2020 landfill budget. The convenience center did not and does not have the funding available to buy such a piece of equipment at this particular time. So it was bought by the landfills when we got the rebate back. Being as it was trash related, it worked out really well for us to be able to get this piece of equipment, as the other backhoe that was used, and this is a very necessary piece of equipment. This piece of equipment smashes down the trash. It does move the trash containers, the roll-offs. It continues we use it to clean the pit out where the garden or limbs and things of refuge that's left. The one we used was a hand-me-down. It was kind of borrowed, and we used it until it wasn't safe to use it anymore. The transport, which is a 2020, was the last piece of equipment that was bought. And partly the reason why we were able to obtain that particular vehicle is because we were able to take that older vehicle and use it as a trade-in, which knocked off a considerable amount off the price of the new transport that we were able to do. We have two transports. One was the one that we traded in, and the other one is a 2004 Mack truck. Mack truck is it's down more than it's up. We do need two transports out there just to try to keep up with the amount of refuse, solid waste that we deliver out to the landfill. If we had two drivers and two units on the road, two transports on the road all the time, we wouldn't have a problem keeping up. As a result of not being able to do that, because the 2004 Mack truck is down so much, we end up relying on a lot of times we will have to contract Southwest Disposal. They have a transport truck that they have been able to come and transport some of these containers out to the landfill just so we can keep up with the demand that's in the city. We don't usually use them if we have a transport that's available and that is working. We have had to a couple of times just to catch back up due to a piece of equipment being down. If one of the transports, if both the transports are down, one of them is not working because it's constantly down, and the other one has to go in for service, even those couple of hours weighs a heavy impact on the convenience center being able to keep up with things, and it puts us behind schedule. If that unit goes down for several days, it puts us weeks and weeks behind. Along with the fuel that we have, like I said, we have the 500-gallon tank out of the convenience center for the equipment, which usually will last a full year. But last year, due to the exponential increase, we ended up having to fill it up twice. That's another 1,000 each time that one is filled up. And with all these with the new equipment, they also come with what is needed as DEF fluid. This DEF fluid is not cheap as well. We usually get that in 55-gallon drums. In 2020, we had to buy it twice, and this year we're slated to at least buy it 3 times. We currently have 10 of the 40 cubic yard roll-offs and 5 of the 30 cubic yard roll-offs that are from the late 90s and are constantly having to be repaired so they can be hauled, which is another cost of the operation. Normally when people come and dump their trash, they don't worry about how hard they throw it in or what it is that they're throwing into these things. So we get quite a few dings and tears in the containers themselves that have to be welded back up because they have to be safe for us to transport out to the landfill. We can't transport with holes, and we have to tarp our load, so we can't just let trash and everything blow off as we're driving out there. As far as the other equipment that must be maintained at the convenience center, we currently have a pre-crusher compactor. That compactor is an extremely important piece of equipment that is used out there, and last week it went down. When that unit goes down, that is a specialized piece of equipment, and we have to use contractors to come in and fix that. It's not something the city can take care of by itself. We were lucky enough that it wasn't a major problem, and it was back up within a couple of days. We have a 2004 Chevy utility truck out there that we use in and around the site. That's mainly to service the equipment out there. We have a 2001 sweeper, a 2002 forklift, a 2002 pump trailer, a 2012 chipper, which we use for the refuse pit, 2019 Ford utility truck, which was acquired a couple of years ago. And then also the truck scale. The truck scale is another piece of equipment that's also very expensive to fix. We just got it recalibrated and brought back up to current standards where it is operational and it is working very well. There was a question about, Commissioner Baldwin had asked about a 20-year replacement plan. Unfortunately, well, Joe Lewandowski is our city consultant. That's not the unfortunate part, but he takes care of the landfill and the convenience center. And he has got a plan that he's working on right now that's similar to the landfill. He could not give me that information before the commission information deadline cutoff. So once it's complete, if any of you would like to see it, I would be more than happy to forward that to you once it's completed. Next, I would like to bring your attention to the two spreadsheets that Evelyn was so graciously provided, giving you an ideal of the budget funding that has been, is now, and is projected on our current course. Evelyn, luckily for me, is here tonight for probably something else, but she's also agreed to answer any questions that you might have regarding those spreadsheets, as she's a lot better at explaining that than I would. But on a final note, for me, would also be in regards to the discussion about the CPI going on from the continuing on to the years. Staff still recommends that we keep that in part of the resolution in order to keep exactly from happening what was expressed on the last commission meeting, from happening about staff requesting to have budget go up even higher and higher every year. If we are able to obtain the $1 increase, which staff is requesting and recommending, this will, which the staff is, by the way, is confident that that amount would work for us. It should bring us back into alignment, and with being able to balance and not balance the budget, not have to withdraw from the fund balance so much to try to keep us in balance. Following the CPI in the future years will help us keep a line and is totally transparent to the public and commission, and would not allow staff to increase the budget more than what is needed. There is also an automatic riser with the Southwest disposal contract and the landfill tipping fees, which directly affect this budget. So allowing us to increase with them and keep with the CPI will allow the convenience center to continue serving the citizens of Alamogordo, which is our goal. And with that, I'll entertain any questions, or if you want to ask Evelyn any questions about the spreadsheets, you can go ahead and ask her and I'll just bow out.
Got some
Any
questions.
questions?
I got,
Mr. Barrett?
looking at your spreadsheet on, for your budget on Fund 86, looking at 4 years you've got on here, our expenditures are relatively the same. They're within, a couple $1,000s of each other, but our revenues are varying great, anywhere between $200,000 and $400,000. Why is that? Where's the discrepancy in our revenues? I mean, basically these come off of our water accounts, don't they? All of the fees that fund most of this.
So to answer that, especially in FY 2020, if you look on the tab that says revenue and expenditures, it's the one that kind of has everything broken down by month. You'll see in FY 2020, we highlighted that one cell for the 177,000. So that
I have that sheet. Hold on. Where's
okay,
it?
sorry.
The one I have, it just has FY 19, 20, 21, and 22, but it doesn't give us breakdowns like you're talking.
There should be another tab on that sheet.
It's the only one I see.
It's not two tabs.
Let me look. Hold on just a second. Yeah, it just says copy of Fund 86. There's just one tab. But it just shows, it shows we had, 2.2 million revenues in 19, 2.4 million in 20, 2 million in 21, and 2 million in 22, but our expenditures are relatively exactly the same. Where's the discrepancy in our revenues there?
So for FY 20, you did receive a payment, the deposit in from the rebate from the landfill. So that was $77,000. That was a one-time shot in the arm for the revenue for that. And so the reasons that you're seeing on the recap sheet that you have, it went from actuals in FY19 from 2.2 million to actuals in FY20 to 2.4 million. So that again, that was pretty much all of that money that came in from the landfill, because that's about that $200,000 change. And going back, so the next one down is FY20. So that is the budget. So that is the budgeted revenues.
Okay, the
come in
2
higher.
million and the 2,098,000.
Right.
Okay.
Correct. That is the current year budget right now through March. They're at 1.7 million. So that's 9 months, 1.7 million. So that gives them 3 months to make that other $300,000. Their monthly average revenue is about $190,000. So if you say 3 more months of $190,000, you're talking about 470,000. So they're going to be kind of right around that area. The other thing that I do need to point out that sometimes is not necessarily reflected in our revenue numbers versus our cash numbers is we are a modified accrual system, which means that when the bill is charged, so when it's created and it's sent out to the consumer, that money is recorded on the revenue line. That does not necessarily mean that we got the cash in for that bill. So what happens with modified accrual is sometimes it overstates the revenue because it records it as revenue when the bill is charged, not when the bill is paid. So that's something that we're going to see a little bit of an issue with being in this pandemic is we have a pretty good receiving rate in terms of getting people to pay, but it's been going down as people are not paying their utility bills quite as regularly as they were before. So we're going to kind of have to see an adjustment in between our actual amount that's been billed and the actual cash that we've received.
I still kind of have some concerns. I mean, if you look at the 3 prior years, 19, 20, 21, we're a pretty good amount of adjusted cash balance. And I understand it drops, at this year, and then we're showing a almost $1,000 deficit for 2022. This is going to generate, if I crunch the numbers right, I don't know which is commercial, which is residential, but we're going to generate an additional 156,000 a year off of this dollar if I figured it, close to. I just, government's not supposed to make money. That's kind of where I have the issue. A 20 or 30 cent increase a year or whatever is one thing, but doing a whole dollar all at one time, I just kind of have a problem with it.
Commissioner Trainer, yes.
Yeah, correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't we say $1 because it's been several years in between that there has been an increase? Is that correct? So if we were to have a 20 cents, right, for the last 5 years, how much would that be? $1. And so when is the last time we actually had an increase?
2016.
2016, and this is 5 years. So that's 20 cents a year for the last 5 years. I don't think $1 is unreasonable, actually. I think we're right where we should be in terms of the increase because we haven't done that for the last 5 years. And I actually think that's just a testament to us as a city and how, I think we're good stewards of the money. I think certainly since I've been coming to commission meetings, this is the best that I've seen in the last few years. And being in the middle of a pandemic, I don't see it as unreasonable at all. We, all have a duty, and I said this last week about our water bills, we all have a duty to help our city, to maintain our city and maintain, even if it's convenience center equipment, whatever it is, we all have a duty as citizens of our city to contribute to that. A great example is if you look at our restaurants, we as a city stepped up when when the pandemic hit, right? And I think more people were going out to eat just to support restaurants or other businesses for that matter. And I think it's the same thing for our city. I don't think it's all about, you know, we're not about trying to make money, but for not having an increase in 5 years, I think $1 is pretty reasonable.
I think the increase in fuel just pretty much justifies $1. I mean, there is no question the price of fuel has gone up already significantly.
Just
And
in
it's
the last
probably,
few months.
yeah, just in the last 100 days,
Right,
it's gone up phenomenally, really.
yeah.
That has almost doubled in some cases.
And it's gonna get
And
worse.
it's gonna get worse, so I think this is a very reasonable request myself. Anyone else have any comments?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion that we approve item 7, consider an act upon resolution 2021 to increase convenience center rates.
I have a motion from Commissioner Payne to approve item 7, resolution 2021-10. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
That was, I have a second from Mayor Pro Tem Sykes. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Nadia Sykes,
Aye.
Josh Burden,
No.
Sharon McDonald,
Aye.
Rusty Wright,
Aye.
Susan Payne,
Aye.
Richard Voss.
Motion passes 5-1.
Thank you.
Thank you, Larry.
Thank you, Larry.
Thank you, Mr. Garner.
Thank you also, Evan.
Yes, thank you, Evan. Sorry.
We'll move on then to new business. Item 8, consider an act upon award of public works bid number 2021-002 to CDKN Dirt Works, Inc., related to the Otero Green Tree Regional Landfill Cells number 1 and number 2 closure project, and amount not to exceed $617,662.48, including gross receipts tax. Bob Johnson, our engineering manager, is here, I believe, to give us any comment that we may, or any information on that we might need. Bob, are you there?
I am.
Okay, we can't see you, but we can hear you. There's any commissioner-
I think he's there twice, actually.
What's that?
Said I think he's there twice, actually.
Yeah, I guess he is.
Yeah,
Does anyone have any questions of Bob? Do I hear a motion regarding item 8?
Mayor, I got a question on that. Hey, Bob, on on the bid tabulation there, we've got bids that are lower. Did we end up rejecting those or?
that's correct. Within the recommendation to award issued by the engineer, we had a number of issues with the low bidder and second low bidder bid documents. Sturgeon Services was the low bidder. They're based out of Sacramento. They did not have the licensing that was required within our bid documents. In addition, they did not complete their subcontractor listing for both the surveying services and geotechnical services. And this project is heavy on surveying and heavy on dirt work testing. Sierra Valley Contractors, located out of, I believe, Tier C, they are correctly licensed. However, they did not list their surveying and dirt work testing services or subcontractors. And by virtue of the fact that these are allowance items estimated to be well above the $5,000 listing threshold, all bidders would have been required to list the geotechnical services and the surveying services. CBKN Dirt Works is the third low bidder. Their paperwork is in order, and the engineer did contact their references and concluded that they were responsible and responsive bidder, capable of performing the work.
Where are they out of?
They are out of Algodones, New Mexico. Algodones is about halfway between Albuquerque and Santa Fe.
Okay.
And they have done work at other landfills in this region of the state.
Okay. One other quick question. I'm looking at this bid tabulation. What the heck is a straw wattle?
A straw wattle, I thought somebody might bring that up.
Just wondering what it is.
Okay, it's a tube, it's a tubular shaped device. It's kind of plastic lined. It's literally got straw in it, and it's designed to mitigate erosion. It moves erosion or water from where you don't want it to where you do want it. You indicated in a prior meeting that you've been by the DOT project on White Sands and Indian Wells.
Mhm.
When you're on Indian Wells headed towards White Sands, if you look off to the right, you'll see these fabric covered looking tubular devices that are blocking
The drain.
inlets
drain,
to the
yeah.
drain and things. Those are straw wattles.
Okay, cool. Thanks, sir.
It's erosion protection.
Okay.
Anyone else have any questions?
I
about that?
have a question.
Commissioner Payne.
I just, because I have to ask, I'm looking at this and there's such a huge difference between the low bidder and I understand that they didn't have the proper licensing.
Right.
Are we? A huge difference.
I'm sorry, you broke up. I didn't hear all of that.
That is such a huge difference that we can't go back out to bid on this or.
It is within commission's power to direct a rebid. This is one of the most, I've been chairing bid openings since the mid 1980s. And this is one of the most unusual ones I've ever been associated with because so many of the bidders, with the exception of one, either did not complete their bid documents correctly and or were not properly licensed in accordance with the information that we put out. And that information is put out in several places as far as the licensing requirements and the subcontractor listing requirements, which is in accordance with the state's Subcontractor Fair Practices Act. The bids were all over the map. There is no competitive range on this whatsoever. And I have no explanation for it. It's highly unusual.
So I don't, it's a well-known fact that construction is not my forte. I'm really trying to learn, but it's just one of those things that it's such a huge difference.
Agreed.
I don't know. I don't know what anybody else thinks.
Mayor, if I may comment, like Commissioner Payne, construction is not my forte, but just looking at the numbers and the disparity between the numbers, I think it would be a travesty for us to have to go with the amount of over 617,000 when we have the ability right now to rebid it and possibly rebid it with more explanation so that the second round of bids would include all of the information that we require. I just hate, it's like we're paying a penalty for people's mistakes when maybe we should just start the process over again.
Yeah, that's how I feel. Again, construction's not my forte. Construction accounting is my forte, though, believe it or not. In my former life, that's what I did. And so that part I understand. And it's just, I don't know. Is that feasible, Bob, to do something like that?
It is. It's entirely feasible. And it will not take much effort on staff's part or on the contracted engineers part to make it happen. There's very little involved in rebidding it. There are some tweaks that we're going to make in our bid documents to provide more emphasis than what we already have relative to licensing types, relative to filling out the subcontractor listing properly. And I believe we're going to look at changing the performance period on this project It's currently a 5-month project. We had a lot of unofficial complaints from bidders that did not bid the project and a couple that did, that 5 months is not sufficient time to move nearly 90,000 cubic yards of dirt along a designated haul route within this landfill. And the haul route is designated because you cannot access cells 1 and 2 any other way because of the steepness. So there's a combination of factors that I think we can change within our bid documents that, while it may not necessarily bring you a lower bid, it should bring in consistent bids.
I think one thing we should consider in this too, though, is that 7 total bids. This one here is 617,000. We had the high bid was 937,000. We had another one for 887,000. We had another one for 739,000. We had another one that was very close. No, it was over. It was for 621,000. So really, it doesn't seem that out of line. If in fact these others were
But I'm wondering,
didn't know what they were doing in the bidding process.
wondering if part of that might have to do with the timeline that you talked about. Maybe, you said that several of them said that we didn't give them that 5 months wasn't enough time. So it may cost them more to do it if they have to do it in a shorter timeline.
That's
Okay.
correct. They would have to, the contractors would have to mobilize more equipment to do the work in a shorter amount of time. And not a lot of contractors out there own more than 1 or 2 scrapers. A similar contract like this was done in Roswell within 5 months. That contractor brought on 4 scrapers, which is a very expensive piece of equipment that's hard to maintain.
Right.
That's just historical data.
We're going to expand, if let's just say hypothetically, if we went back out to bid, you would expand that timeline?
We would expand it from 150 days or 5 months to 210 days, which is 7 months.
It might make a difference.
More expensive.
No, less expensive, because they would have more time to do it.
Mr. Mayor, I think Commissioner Wright wanted to make a comment, and then I got one to make.
Commissioner Reardon.
Yeah, I say, Commissioner Wright wanted to make one first, and then I'll make one.
I'm sorry, Commissioner Wright.
Bob, just a couple questions. Looking at these, the lower ones are usually somebody missed it by that low is missing something or
Right.
not got all the proper licenses or paperwork and stuff. Anyway, seeing this, what's the timeline of putting this back out to bid and the cost of materials and the cost of fuel increasing and some of that stuff? Are we
Actually, the cost of fuel may fluctuate since it's been all over the map the past 100 days, as the mayor said on the previous item. There is no cost of materials because we're using existing materials from cell 8 and moving it to cap cells 1 and 2. So, and the city is also providing the water via the tank that's located at the landfill. So it's primarily just fuel and labor. The wage rates, I'll have to get a new wage decision, but those rates will not change. Those were set at the beginning of the year. So I don't see a whole lot of additional cost other than the fuel, which that's not anything we can control.
Sure.
That's controlled by the refineries.
Sure.
Bob, I noticed that staff approved the award. They said to approve it. That's your opinion. That is still your opinion that we should approve this as it's been presented to us?
I'm sorry, sir. I'm having trouble hearing you.
On the agenda report, it says that staff, they suggest that the commission approve this award. In other words, you support approving this as it's been stated. Do you still feel that way?
No, sir, I do not.
Do you feel like we should rebid it?
I think that would be the best.
Okay, that's what I need to know. Very good.
Hey, Bob, I got a quick question too. Obviously I know where the one bidder is. You said this CBKN is coming from up north. What about those other two, the BNR Trucking and the Crosstown Construction? Where are they located out of?
B&R Trucking and I think Crosstown might have been in Las Cruces, or B&R Trucking. One of them was out of Las Cruces. One of them was out of Carlsbad. Neither one, at least one of the two were not properly licensed. And neither one of them filled out their subcontractor listing.
So basically, if we were to do this correctly, we would basically kick out every bid except for the two, the 617 and the 739, right? Because this was like you said, Sturgeon and Sierra Valley both didn't have theirs correctly. You said Cross BR didn't have theirs correctly, which leaves
Yeah, correct.
CBKN. So
Yeah.
typically in a bid opening, we would have rejected. We would have
And
rejected those bids.
actually, Mesa Verde incorrectly completed their subcontractor listing. They listed one bid received or no bids received for both categories of work. Under the Subcontractor Fair Practice Act, you can only state that for one category of work. Mesa Verde listed it for two. So their subcontractor listing was incorrect as well.
Okay. Well, part of what concerns me, we've got your engineer's estimate is 621,000. We got a competitive bid of 617. Part of what concerns me is if we do put it out to rebid, that we're actually going to increase our cost, or we could accept it tonight. And I mean, you said you checked on these guys' credentials and they've performed previously, got it done.
Correct.
That's kind of what concerns me. You know what I mean? Some of these other contractors, we know them. We know that they do I just was wondering why some of these are so much higher. That's why I was asking where they're located. Maybe getting their hauled in or mobilizing to the site. So more on how to proceed with this one.
Yeah, like I said, I don't understand this. When we bid cell 5 out at the landfill 2 or 3 years ago, we had 4 bids, and it was a much larger project. But again, it was excavating. But we had a fairly competitive range then, and not any issues that I can recall of bid documents. So why we had such a skewed numbers and inappropriate bid documents, I don't have a clue.
Did CBKN, they have all their bid documents correct and everything?
CBKN had everything correct.
Okay. So technically they would have been the only one that wouldn't have been rejected?
Technically, yes.
Under normal circumstances?
Correct.
Bobby, did I understand you correctly? You did say that if it were you doing, you would rebid this?
After having looked at it and considered all of the factors, it would be my personal opinion that it might be best to rebid this.
Okay, I am going to, I guess let's make a motion on this. I'm going to make a motion that we do not approve this Public Works bid 2021-002, and that we direct staff to go back out to bid on this.
Mr. Mayor, I'll second your motion, but I got a question for Brian, I think it is. Will this impact anything? I know we're the fiscal agent for Green Tree and Otero County Green Tree, but will this impact anything with the solid waste as well, or will there be any issues?
No, there won't be any issues with the landfill board. Operationally, these cells 1 and 2 aren't used.
Okay.
That's why we're having these capped off, so that we can take down the financial assurance, which will actually save money for the members.
Okay, thank you.
So we have a motion and a second. Second was from Commissioner Reardon. I made the motion to not approve this bid and to go back out to bid. Is that sufficient? Is that motion sufficient, City Attorney? Okay. Is that sufficient? Okay. So all those in favor of adjusting item 8? Aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. I'm assuming everyone voted, and the motion passed 6-0. We move on to item 9, consider an act upon resolution 2021-11, declaring 1113 Catalina, Alamogordo, New Mexico to be so ruined, damaged, and dilapidated that it is a menace to the public comfort, health, peace, or safety, and ordering its abatement. We have our city attorney, Patria Bingose, and we have our fire chief, Jim McClare, and our fire chief, Richard Adler here. I guess if anybody has any questions, we have all of these people here to help us with this. Any comments on that?
Thank
Any
you, Ms.
comments, or do I hear a motion to approve?
Patria's gonna.
Oh, Patria, go
I
ahead.
have a presentation for you, but if you don't want to see it, I'm happy to just let you approve it.
Do you want to comment? We've heard this. Go ahead. I mean, this is not the first time we've seen this. Go ahead and give us some
Okay.
comments. Give us your comments on it.
Am I able to share my screen, Rachel? Have you made me co-host?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Oh, she's not Rachel. She's
Oh,
not Rachel.
You can share. Your
Can everyone see my presentation?
Yes.
Yes.
Perfect. So we are here to talk about 1113 Catalina. As you may remember, we started this process in January of 2019 and served our first set of warrants in March of 2019. I'm sorry, of 2020. And then COVID hit. So now we are back and we have been inside of this home and we are here under New Mexico Statute 3-18-5. To talk a little bit about that, it gives the municipality authority to order removal of the building or structure that is ruined, damaged, and dilapidated, or any premise covered with ruins, rubbish, wreckage, or debris. We will have to make a finding that the property is a menace to the public comfort, health, peace, or safety. And then what happens is that it'll give the property owner 10 days from us posting or publishing this resolution to either remove it or fix it themselves. Or if they don't, then we can, after 10 days, unless they file a written objection, then it'll come back before you all and you would either have to affirm the previous finding or change it. If you affirm it, then it will go to district court. So this property, 1113 Catalina, is owned by Lester and Barbara Robinson. The address is the legal address that we have to use in Tolleson, Arizona. That's the mailing address according to the county assessor. This home is vacant. All of our letters have been received and signed for, but never had any contact. We did apply for the administrative warrant in late March in order to go into the home. We entered the home on April 7th, 2020 with the help of the Alamogordo Police Department. This is what the home looks like on the outside. As you can see, all of the windows are compromised. There's no glass in them. Some are boarded. There have been squatters inside of the home, so it is pretty heavily damaged. The roof is damaged. It looks like it's falling in at places. There's structural issues with the brick. You can see there in the photograph of the kitchen that there's some flooring issues and there's no water to this property. So I'm sure if there was, there'd be major plumbing issues. Additionally, here you can see there's major holes in the walls, holes in the ceilings, piles of trash. There are feces all over this home and the floor is also compromised. I have included in your materials a report from Jim Baker, who is here, the code enforcement supervisor, and also Fire Lieutenant John Stroop, who works in construction and has a lot of structural experience. So we are asking today for the commission to consider an act upon, I'm so sorry, this says XX, this resolution declaring 1113 Catalina a dilapidated structure and ordering its removal. Are there any questions about that?
Anyone have any questions?
What are we gonna do with it? Obviously, we've sent them letters. Are we just gonna tear it down, lien the property, that kind of stuff, the usual if we don't hear from them?
That's all that state law allows us to do, is that we have, whatever we find as an issue on the property, then we must remove it. Case law is very clear that we have to make it a flat piece of property that's no longer a danger. And so once we do that, state law gives us the ability to file a lien on it. So we'll file that lien and then foreclose on the lien to try and recoup the costs.
Which we won't, because it's just a vacant lot in an old neighborhood.
It's a pretty big lot, this one. It is the biggest lot of all of them. It's
This is just across from the apartment complex there, right on Catalina
yes,
and
sir, it is.
the west
Absolutely.
of it. Okay. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
How
Commissioner
long will
McDonald.
it take to get the demolition done? Would it be a year, or how long would that take?
So I hate to give the lawyer's answer, but I'm going to give it to you. It really depends. Best case scenario, we have no written objection from the owners and we can proceed forward in 10 days. We have monies budgeted for this currently, but because of the structural integrity of all of these, we're going to have to contract it out. We suspect that there's asbestos, lead paint, all sorts of well, you'll see that there's going to be some additional things in the other homes that are dangerous. So we think that we're going to end up having to contract it out. They'll have to tent the house and sort of collapse it in like we've done in the past. So it'll depend on how fast we can get those bid documents out, get it awarded, and then it'll depend on the contractor's schedule. I will tell you it's a priority for us, so we'll do it as soon as, we can. But if the owner files a written objection and we end up in district court, any one of these properties could turn into the next Sahara Apartments.
I guess I just had, the reason why I asked the question is because I thought in District Number 5, there were a couple of houses that had also been put in the same category, and they're still standing. So I guess I just wanted to, and I thought one of them was still standing. So that's my question, because I know COVID hit and some things weren't done. So I just wanted to know how fast that would take place.
I believe that the ones in District 5 that are still standing are going to be done by in-house crews. So that's, they're unfortunately right now really busy with water main breaks and fixing streets and potholes and whatnot. These will be contracted out because of the asbestos in the homes and the severe damage to them. So I think that's the difference here. I know that that's a major priority. We are taking down a couple in District 5, but I don't expect these to come down before we turn fiscal. I mean, we'll do it as fast as we can, but just to get this administrative warrant process started, Chief Leclerc and I started talking about this and doing this, and at least in Catalina, I believe in late 2019, served our first set of warrants in the beginning of 2020, and then COVID hit, and we have changing sort of requirements from the commission. We're now looking at only vacant buildings and targeting the most vacant dilapidated structures. And I will tell you that there's several that we're working on currently that once we got into them and served them warrants, they've come to the table and are trying to make it right. So there are others that we are working on that you won't hear about this evening, but we're working with the owners currently.
Any other questions or comments?
Mr. Mayor, I'll just make a motion that we approve resolution 2021-11.
I have a motion from Commissioner Reardon to approve resolution 2021-11. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
I have a second from Commissioner Payne. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Nadia Sykes,
Aye.
Josh Burden,
Aye.
Sharon McDonald,
Aye.
Dusty Wright.
Aye.
Susan Payne,
Aye, sorry.
Richard Buzz.
Motion passes 6-0. Move on to item 10. Consider an act upon resolution 2021-12 declaring 2414 Fifth Alamogordo, New Mexico to be so ruined, damaged, and dilapidated that it is a menace to the public comfort, health, peace, or safety, and ordering its abatement. And again, we have our city attorney, I think we'll share information on that.
Thank you again. Mayor Pro Tem, Commissioners. This home is 2414 Tejas. This home is in serious disrepair. Jim Baker and Chief Leclerc have been working on this property since well before even I started in the city, and have really done everything they can to try and gain compliance with this owner. This property has been into the municipal court probably 5 or 6 times even since I've been city attorney, and we've prosecuted this case all the way through the appellate processes into the district court and been victorious each time. We have tried to go as far as talking to the owner, Mr. Trexler, about putting chicken coop in there to keep the pigeons out and whatnot. He is not interested. I will share with you the PowerPoint. This house is probably the most damage that we will see this evening. So again, this is the same authority that we talked about last time. So it's derived from 3-18-5 in the state law. Mr. Trexler owns it. We've dealt with him many times. We have had lots of communication with Mr. Trexler. He let us in the home when we did the warrant and was there, gave us some serious warnings and asked that we all wear full respirators before entering the home because of the way that the inside is. This is the outside of the home. As you can see right away, there's some major issues with the soffit and the roof. It is falling in. These are 3 photographs of where the roof attaches outside. You can see where on the soffit it is either completely gone or coming down. This is the inside of the home. So you can see that not only is the roof, it's completely open to the outside in several areas, which have allowed the home to become infested with pigeons. And so there's a lot of pigeon excrement in there as well as dead pigeons. It's not a place you want to go into. It's pretty unhealthy to be in there. But it's structurally, I mean, the power is somehow on, although we are very concerned about that at this point. More photographs. Again, this is taken from the inside of the home. So when we had all of our people go through, they disturbed the pigeons and they flew straight out, but they have really taken most of this property over. You can see that they've used it as the restroom in several areas. And again, we have a report that I've included from Code Supervisor Jim Baker and Fire Lieutenant John Stroop. There is, if you read them, significant damage, significant structural damage, and we don't believe that this home can be saved at this point. The owner, I will tell the commission, is very convinced that we can save the home, but we don't believe it can be saved. So we would just ask the commission to consider and act upon resolution 2021-12 and declare 2414 Tejas dilapidated and order its removal.
City Attorney.
I have a question for City Attorney.
Yes, ma'am.
If he's been in municipal court as many times as you just told us he has, why has he not done anything to this point?
So he's paid the fines in municipal court. When I spoke with Mr. Trexler, he told me that fixing the roof at this point is throwing bad money after good money, that he believes he could spend $40,000 to $50,000 and completely fix the home, but it's just quote unquote not a priority right now. He also told me that he has no sense of urgency when it comes to this house. It was his mother's home, purchased, I believe, in the 50s. So it's been in his family a long time. It is obviously vacant. He really does think that he'll fix it up, but he doesn't have the means to currently do so. But he thinks it's worth about $125,000 currently.
It's not worth it.
City Attorney, I've got a question on this one. I actually have an investment property that's real close to this one. Does anyone have a problem with me voting on this? I don't know if it's a conflict or not, but
No.
just want to make sure nobody has a problem with it. Okay. So other than, given that, I'll make a motion that we approve resolution 2021-12. That house is a
Motion from Commissioner Reardon to approve resolution 2021-12.
I'll second.
And I have a second from Commissioner Payne. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Nadia Sykes,
Aye.
Josh Roden,
Aye.
Sharon McDonald,
Aye.
Dusty Wright.
Aye.
Susan Payne,
Definitely aye.
Richard Bus.
Motion passes 6-0. We'll move on to item 11, consider act upon resolution 2021-13, 704 Panorama, Alamogordo, New Mexico, to be so ruined, damaged, and dilapidated that it is a menace to the public comfort, health, peace, and our safety, and ordering its abatement. And again, we have our city attorney, Patria Inglishay, here to give us information on that. Patria?
Thank you again, Mayor Pro Tem Commissioners. We are going to talk about 704 Panorama this time, our last presentation of the evening. This structure is probably one of the most structurally unsound that we'll see this evening. Our authority is the same, NMSA 3-18-5. The assessor tells us that the owner is Charles and Janice Bender. We have sent letters to the address of record, which is this vacant property, and what we believe to be their current address. We have received no response. We applied for and received the search warrant in late March. And again, we entered the home on April 7th through a wide open back door. I received copious complaints about this home and the people going in and out. This is the home from the front. It should be noted that we do currently have liens against this home as we've had to abate it several times. This is the back of the home. Obviously, there are some major structural issues with the roof. I think that it's our belief that if it's a swamp cooler or AC, I'm not sure, will fall in any day at this point. It is incredibly structurally unsound there. This is some of the inside of the home. Again, you have absolutely open sky so everything's getting into the house from the outside. We don't have a pigeon problem yet, but it is only a matter of time. The house has very clearly been ransacked. There's debris everywhere in every room covering the floors. The ceiling's coming out. If you look at these pictures closely, especially the two on the right-hand side, there are major structural issues and cracks in the walls and the foundation. It has sunk so much in the front that the front door doesn't open any longer because of the pressure on the door from the rest of the home. So again, I have a report included from Jim Baker, Code Supervisor, John Stroop, Fire Lieutenant, and we are just asking that the City Commission approve Resolution 2021-13 and declare 704 Panorama a dilapidated structure, ordering its removal.
City Attorney, have we had any the letters that we've sent, have they responded or signed for, or were they returned?
They've all been signed for. None have been, except for the ones to vacant 704 Panorama. The ones that we sent to where we believe they are have been signed for, but by the postal carrier, and it's a motel, so it's hard to tell with that one. We've had all of the letters that were in the first address I presented, 1113 Catalina, were signed for, not by the owner, but that is the address they've given us. So they were signed for. No one's ever called. Mr. Trexler has called us several times. I speak to him regularly. And then the fourth one we're looking at that's not here tonight, we are working with that owner.
Okay. Because this house here, you know, was probably built late 70s, early 80s. Those other ones, you know, they're 50s and 60s. And they're, you know, this one looks bad, but being in the trade, you know, the roof needs to be redone. You can board the doors up. The problem we have is that neighborhood, you know, you're going to end up with just a flat vacant lot right there that'll probably never, ever get built on again.
Well, we have next door, or well, I don't want to say next door neighbors. We have neighbors talking about the people that come in and out of the home currently that are using drugs, that are stealing from them. There were needles in the backyard that we saw. So this house is currently creating a menace for that neighborhood, and we've heard about it from them quite a bit.
Commissioner Reardon, if you look at the two reports, and I'm not sure if all the photos are in there, but the front living room, front door, etc., you actually see daylight. It has settled. That front portion of the home has settled at least 6 inches, if not more.
Okay. Yeah, we don't have that picture in here.
Okay.
It's in there. It's photo number 61 in the Jim Baker's report. You can also see it in photo number 60 as well as photo 75 shows them settling as well, and they're referenced in his report.
Let me get to those.
81 also.
I have a comment.
Pro Tem Sykes?
City Attorney, we've gone through similar situations. And number one, I appreciate the fact that we're showing pictures illustrating how damaged they are. The third house we just looked at looked fairly decent from the front. And that reminded me of the Rockwood house, if you remember the Rockwood house.
Yes, ma'am.
They look fine from the front. It's horrible from the back. And unless people see the evidence, they wonder why we're giving these particular locations priority. In the process of doing this, I mean, this is serious, to take over somebody's property and then to pass a resolution to ultimately knock it down. That's serious stuff. Do we investigate whether the owners have, if they've not signed for the letters, have we made the determination that they're not deceased, that they're not holed up somewhere in a nursing home? Or we know that every avenue has been investigated to make sure that the people who own it are still alive?
We do the best that we can. I can tell you that I've had reports that some of the spouses of these homes have deceased and there's only one remaining owner alive. I don't know if that's true. I've done what I can to search, to use Google, search death records and whatnot.
Right.
But we do that. And I attempt every time we send letters, and this isn't the first set of letters that have gone out. We always just ask, please call, even if this isn't your property, please call us so we know. And I usually don't get anything back. So, I believe that the wife, Miss Fender in 704 Panorama, is in town. And I believe that she's received the letters, but I don't know that for sure. But when I speak with the place where she's currently living, they believe that she's received them as well. And I've left voicemails on any numbers I have. I leave messages.
Great. Thank you.
Commissioner Payne?
I appreciate what Commissioner Sykes had to say, and I agree to an extent, but I gotta tell you, well, I don't have to tell you because I know you know, but I just want to make this point that it is incredibly unfair. The house on KS is a great example. That's a health hazard. I mean, that's right up there with Sahara Apartments. That is insane. And I find it incredibly disingenuous that the owner thinks that every neighbor in the neighborhood should have to put up with that because that's not a priority for him. And I think we're doing everybody a favor by tearing that house down. And I feel the same way about Panorama. Those houses, Commissioner Reardon said that nobody would want to build over there. And I don't know that I necessarily agree with that. I think it could happen, but I think that we need to be proactive in trying to clean these areas up so that we can get people to take an interest in them. If there's certain parts of town that if there was a house like that, let's face it, the neighborhood would be screaming even louder and we'd be listening. And I think that we are absolutely doing the right thing. And I appreciate the work that you've done to get this done because they've got to come down. That's ridiculous. I mean, there is no excuse for that. I understand if they're elderly or that kind of thing, but let's say that they are. Let's put this in perspective. We've done everything we can. They're in a nursing home. There's nothing. What's going to happen? Even if that's the case, even if we were able to contact them, even if they were in a position where they were in a nursing home or something like that, what's going to happen? It's still going to sit there. And how long do we allow that to happen before we take some kind of action for the good of the rest of the neighbors? It's just simply not fair to them to have to look at that, breathe that air, whatever. I mean, it's not good for home values, and it's just not good health-wise.
I have a comment too. I said I agree with Commissioner Payne on that because I walk the neighborhood here, and when I go by one day and you see the doors closed one day, and the next day the door is down. Then the next week you go by, the windows are missing. So we have several of those houses, and I can probably pick out about three that have the same. They don't have the pigeon poop in it like the one on Tails or Teus. But these houses are left for other people to venture in, the squatters and things like that. And it has been a little frustrating looking at the length of time it takes to, get people to be aware that this is actually bringing down the value of everybody else's home in the area. So I think it's really great that we're addressing some of the addresses that we've seen in the agenda tonight. But I really would like to, I said, if I have to take the pictures, I'm not going in the houses. But one of the houses, when I look in it, I can actually see the backyard because the whole back of the house is missing. So the roof isn't coming down and we don't have the air conditioning units in there, but the houses are equally as bad on this side. And I know that they said people will not build here, but what I'm seeing right now, I said, I don't think we can really speak for the entire city of Alamogordo as to what will and won't be done. But I think that if we could just get some incentives for people to want to move and even, maybe give them some type of cost incentive to build here, I think it would be great. And I said, it's not always going to be the city builders, whoever is, and I don't want to call off any names, but I said, everybody is a developer. I said, because they can use their abilities to build something or to make it to an advantage for the entire community. I said, I don't want to mention any developers that are actually building in town, but it doesn't take them to do the job. There are other people who have the ability and can do it. But I believe that if we, take some of the houses that are in ruins down, maybe that would give somebody an opportunity to build.
Commissioner McDonald, if you'll send me some addresses, I'm happy to go look at those and put them on our list next. For what we do, we've been working on these three for a very long time, so we're trying to get these down, but I'm happy to start on those next week.
I will get them to you.
Sure.
It's the pigeons. I'm sorry, it made my stomach turn. That was just gross. That was just gross. Somebody should have to put up with that. That's disgusting.
Any other discussion, or do I hear a motion on this item 11?
I got a question. This may be a Jim. I got a question. There may be a Jim question, but
Mr. Reddick.
are those acetylene bottles in picture 70 or are those CO2 bottles?
What was the question?
I think it'd probably be for Jim or Jim Leclerc. He was probably one that's seen them. But in picture number 70 and 61, are those CO2 or are they bottles?
Patria, can you bring that picture back up?
I'm working to find it. Commissioner Reader, are we talking about 704 Panorama?
Yes, on 704. Yeah.
Sorry, I'm just trying to find
Hold
it.
on. Let me make sure I'm on the right one. Yeah. 704. It's in the code report.
I have it. Let me share my screen.
CO2 to me.
What the heck they'd have those in there for?
Oops. These bottles.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are CO2 bottles for
CO2.
yeah,
soda machines, aren't they?
soda machines.
Okay. All right. Yeah. So, Mr. Mayor, I'll just make a motion that we approve resolution 2021-13.
I have a motion from Commissioner Reardon that we approve resolution 2021-13. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Payne, will the clerk please call the roll?
Nadia Sykes,
Aye.
Josh Reardon,
Aye.
Sharon McDonald,
Aye.
Dusty Wright,
Aye.
Susan Payne,
Aye.
Richard Voss.
Passes 6-0. Thank you very much, Patria.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Patria.
Steve too. Thank you.
And thank you to Jim Leclerc for all of your help. You did great, and it was so nice to work with you on this. And Baker and Chief Adler.
And thank you for
Thank
putting
you.
your health at risk.
Yes.
Hazmat suits, right? Ugh, that's
We'll
so gross.
We'll move on to item 12, appointments to boards and committees, and we have a couple of board here, council actually. I'm going to read everything that we have an opening in. The Airport Zoning Board has one vacancy. There were no applications received. Park and Recreation Board has one vacancy. The vacancy is due to the expiring term of Rita Morla. Rita Mora is asked to be reappointed. This would be her fourth term. And if there's no objection from the commission, I am going to reappoint Rita to that board. And also, I want to thank her very much for her past 4 years of service to it. If I don't hear any objection, then Rita is appointed to the Parks and Recreation Board for her fourth term. Senior Volunteer Program Advisory Council, there's two vacancies. You know, some individuals, one being Stephen Butler, if reappointed, this would be his fifth term. We also have Rebecca Miller, if appointed, this would be her first term. And if there's no objection from the commission, I'm going to reappoint Stephen Butler to that council. And I'm also going to appoint Rebecca Miller to the council for her first term and Mr. Butler for his fourth term. And I want to thank Mr. Butler for his service. So do I hear an objection? They are so appointed. If anyone is interested in serving on a board or committee, you may apply with the city clerk's office or online at the city's website. Okay. If there's no further business for the good of the city, we'll move on to item 13 and adjourn into executive session in compliance with 10-15-187 NMSA as amended to discuss threatened or pending litigation, potential lawsuit regarding encroachment issues at 24th Street in Canal. Do I hear a motion to adjourn into executive session?
So moved.
I have a motion from Commissioner Payne to adjourn into executive session. Do I hear a second?
A second.
I have a second from Commissioner Wright. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Nadia Sykes,
Aye.
Josh Roden,
Aye.
Sharon McDonald,
Aye.
Dusty Wright,
Aye.
Susan Payne, Richard Buss.
Aye. Motion passes 6-0. We are adjourned into executive session.